Doing something for the first time is wild. And when you think of the outdoors, it's inherently wild. I think the most important thing for me is sharing an activity, sharing what I love with people that have not experienced that or have some kind of barrier related to it. The magic of being able to create that bond, that connection with an activity, a person, a place, that's special. Welcome to another episode of Sincerely Yours Outdoors. Here with the gang, ready to talk to y'all, especially you. We got a lot to catching up to do. So
yeah, I got some stuff in me, y'all.
How we feeling? It's a beautiful day, sunny.
It is. We got some shade over us.
Yeah.
But then we're enjoying these cicadas.
Hey, can't take one without another, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good. I think this is my first time in McKinley Park. In this area. I've been, as I was telling you all earlier, on the basketball courts and things of that nature previously, but this is my first time here. I just kept going up the road and I was like, wait, there's more?
Yep.
And here we are. Yeah. So I feel good. It feels good to be out here for the first time.
Yeah.
There's still more too.
There's still more.
Yep.
Around the corner.
Around the corner, there's a shelter house and then there's a basketball court. Do you all know Janelle Young?
Yeah.
She painted the basketball court over there. She's also from Beltzhoover. And so
Okay.
we got some hidden gems around here that people don't know about.
Yeah. I have to keep going down the road.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out Janelle when we doing it big. So how you feeling, Chastity?
I feel good. It's Monday. I don't have to go to work.
That's not a better feeling than that.
Because usually, everybody dreads Monday because they got to get up and go to work. I got up to do a podcast and talk about things that I like. So I feel good today.
That's a great Monday, if you ask me.
That is fair. Yeah.
And the kids are back in school. Want to shout out all them kiddies running up to elementary school, middle school, high school, pre-K. Man, it's gonna be a blessed day. Can't wait to hear these stories.
Households.
Yeah, I can't wait to see y'all running in these parks when I slide through later on my mountain bike. I can't love it. Oh man, what a feeling. Chastity, want to open up the floor to give you space to introduce yourself? I know I have a lot of accolades to give you and some love to share, but we want to provide that space for you to introduce yourself how you see best fit. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, so I'm Chastity May. I currently work for the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy. I'm their community nature educator, so I do their outreach education. I've been in this position for, it feels like a lifetime. Well, actually, it's been my only adult career, so maybe that's why it feels like a lifetime. Because I've never had another adult job ever since college. I've been with the Parks Conservancy. I kind of like what I do. It's pretty cool. I get to meet lots of new people. What else do I want you all to know? I am a yoga instructor. You can find me online, Chastity Yoga. I'm still getting my footing with that because that's new. But I don't know. What else do I do? I do a lot more, y'all?
I mean,
Yeah. There's still a lot.
I mean, do we want to start the accolades or we want to hold off on those, 40 under 40?
We could just go volley back and forth, tennis. Yeah, starting probably with 40 under 40. Yeah.
Yeah, because y'all ain't even
Big
30. I'm not even
Go ahead and flex
30.
on them.
Keep going.
And
Talk that talk.
I really be needing people to know, I get put into these rooms that I didn't expect to get put into, but I'm not mad at it. And guess what? I'm not even 30, so there's a lot of rooms that I still have yet to step foot in. So
You heard?
if you didn't know, now you know.
Yeah. Let these people know. Yeah, I
Big
love
time.
it. Yeah. And I can say from my end of things, one of the driving forces for me to be where I am today. So literally, you were one of the first homies when I moved here that was like, hey, yo, you got a good idea.
This person was like, who else should I talk to? Well, have you heard about this person and this person? And then ever since,
For sure.
we've been friends.
Here I am now. So I gotta give you those flowers. Appreciate that.
I
Bunch of love.
appreciate it.
So
We got to give people the information we have and not always hold it into ourselves. And a lot of people are stingy with their information.
This is facts.
But guess what? It's going to help somebody grow. And I wasn't willing to do the things that you're doing right now with all the information that I had. So I had to give it to you so that you can bless the rest of us with this.
Facts.
We need it.
Hey, we win, I win. You know, I'm part of we. So hey,
Yep.
it's a good time.
There's
We, the people.
There's like this environment, I think, that exists like in society today, where it's like, I can't tell you because you may take my play. And like, even for us, I would say our posture is like, no, we want you to take the play because that makes everybody better. Because if you're going to go and pursue it, that means you have some kind of energy about executing it. And if you do it better than us, it fuels us to try and do it better than you. And you know, alternatively and collectively, everybody wins when like it's just back and forth in that kind of nature. I'm inherently competitive. You're inherently competitive, so that's more largely like the energy. But collectively, if like little pieces of information to him creates what he's created, and now it's just like in return, you know, sharing with you so that you take that next step, whatever that may be for you as well. So I wish we had more, like that was a climate more consistently for everyone, because just as you mentioned, it's like sometimes we'll have experiences and you're like, you knew all along, why didn't you tell me, you know?
'Cause they don't want to give you a piece of the pie. They don't want you to get rich off their ideas, but it might not be their idea. It's just a piece of it. But guess what? You can still stay sitting at the table, because I'm still sitting at the table.
Facts.
And I still been a part of OIC in other capacities, even though I just gave a small idea at the beginning.
Sure. That's great. Yeah.
So it's like you can still be a part of it, even if it's not fully yours. And people forget that partnerships are a thing. Collaboration is a thing. It is important to collaborate, because one brain's not enough. I swear it's not.
Yeah.
I forget stuff. Y'all seen?
This is take two with Chastity.
I forget half the stuff that I do. Like whenever I go to talk about myself, and maybe it's my own imposter syndrome, where I forget to talk about it because it's just normal to me that I expect, you know, I don't think to talk about it. But then things like my accolades, I don't think to always talk about, because somebody's going on. If you don't know, you're going to find out one day.
Yeah.
But those are things that we just got to start sharing more and not forgetting, because I be forgetting.
Well, I'd be nudging. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Nudge some more.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're sitting in a park. We haven't even stated where we
Yeah.
physically are, but I know it has a lot of affinity to you, and I feel like I was able to witness half of that while we were just hanging out. So can you tell us where we are, what it means to you, kind of what it looked like, you know, 15, 20 years ago when you were a kid growing up, running through these streets?
All right. So this is McKinley Park. We are on Michigan right now at the shelter, not the shelter house. Don't get that confused. The shelter house is over by the basketball court. But we are at the shelter. The shelter is recently done by the Parks Conservancy in their efforts recently in the past couple of years. So now we have some shade here. When I was a kid, my grandma used to have 4th of July cookouts here on this grassland. It was literally nothing but grass, and we had our own tables and chairs and tents. But also, in addition to that, around the corner, I used to play in that playground. The playground also just got redone this summer, so I haven't been there to see what the new equipment is like, but I hope there's still swings.
You heard it direct.
I used to come to this park as a kid, but there was another park closer to my grandpa's house, so he used to want us to go there because it was closer to home. But guess what? We like some monkey bars, and we like some slides, and we really, really like some swings. So we need swings. And I hope that they didn't take the swings out. I hope that there's still swings up there, y'all. Because like when I was in college, I really I went to Penn State, Altoona. I just wanted to find a playground with swings. Y'all, I could not on the maps find not a playground, not one. And I'm like, well, what do the kids do here?
Yeah.
Never found it. And then I met somebody who was like, well, I could have took you. I didn't even know you. How was you going to take me to the playground? So now I feel like I need to go back to figure out where the playgrounds are in Altoona, because I feel like playgrounds are essential. What do the people in the countries do?
Well, I guess we were one of them at one point.
Y'all didn't
Not
have...
much.
I mean,
Play around in the backyard.
Yeah.
Unstructured play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
figure it out.
No playground.
Neighborhood
Tire swing.
kids all in one backyard.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Y'all
much
have a
it.
tire swing?
Nah.
We did not have a tire swing, no.
Nah.
Oh man.
We had all the sports equipment you could think of, though.
When did y'all get swings? Like when did you have your first experience of a swing?
Oh, elementary school.
Yeah.
But that was on school premises. for
Yeah, yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it was a minute.
Dang, y'all ain't even have that little baby one that kept you enclosed. Wow.
Nah,
No such thing.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of access to. I mean, when you live in the country, it's like no city parks really, as it relates to assets there. I mean, I think the closest park to us growing up was maybe like 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Driving
a
like
little
country
hike.
roads, you know.
That's a little hike too.
Yeah, it's a hike. So a lot of time out in the backyard with the neighbors.
Yeah.
Kind of just.
Because, if you live in Pittsburgh, 20 minutes means you crossing a bridge and
Yeah,
people
yeah.
don't go there.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess there's things that we don't realize that we take for granted.
For sure.
Because
Kids still
was-
using parks?
5 and 6, it
Do
depends
people
on
still
the
go?
parents.
Do kids still go to parks
I
nowadays?
feel like it depends on the parent.
Yeah, I agree.
If
That's
your
fair.
parent parents you to go outside,
Yeah.
parents you and takes you outside, then yes, but.
Yeah.
I will say I had a group come to Frick a couple weeks ago, and whenever the camp told them we're going to the park, they thought the park, and then
Yeah.
they got to Frick, and there was no swings, no nothing. And I'm like, you said we were going to the park, and I'm like, this is the park,
Yeah.
just not the kind of
Yeah.
park you were expecting. So there are some kids who still look forward to the park aspect, and I don't know if it's just because of camp or school or whatever, but there are some, but I know most of them are screen kids.
I wish we had like the assets that the city of Pittsburgh has from a parks infrastructure standpoint when we grew up.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have been wild. I would have loved to go to like
Yeah.
Frick Park and it'd be in my neighborhood. Like just thinking about that, or even like to have something like McKinley Park in my neighborhood would just been wild. Growing up as kids, I mean, I would have spent all of my time there, as opposed to our backyard. But
Yeah.
Now you see why I didn't want to go to the school playground?
yeah, right.
Like-
That brings it all home here. I mean, yeah, this is
No, I don't want to go to the cement playground where I got to see the school that I went to already today.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was already there. I want to go down there where there's grass and there's the tree, because there was a tree over there. They cut that tree down, but y'all, they did replant it, so hopefully it grows back like the one last. But we used to climb the tree.
Yeah.
That was right there,
I
and
got
it's
you,
like,
Sally.
so there's like, it wasn't even just the playground. It was the things around the playground that enticed us as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I would say that's the interesting spectrum that brings everything home for me, knowing you and like hearing your outdoor story, is like the connection to this park, the amount of investment that you've had from an advocacy standpoint in this park, and then the community and how you are here constantly to say like, hey, come out and have that same experience I had, which is like the most beautiful thing. I mean, you said it was like, hey, the tree, the greenery, the play space, all that stuff made an impact on you, and you're literally doing that and trying to fulfill that day by day. I know sometimes it's tried to like,
Yes.
man, I took 4 steps back today, and then 3 weeks from now it's like, oh, we're finally back on even footing.
It's back, y'all.
But but I'm sure that is a rewarding but also exhausting and fully heart invested experience for you.
Oh man, yes, because today's kids, y'all, they don't value what we valued, and
Yeah.
it's because we didn't have as much, and they have so much.
Mm.
And I don't even mean that like monetary. It's just the things that they have, they can get their hands on. All the things that are available to them. We didn't have that. How long did it take for us to get internet, y'all? We had dial-up, and it was, and then your phone didn't work if you was on the internet. Like, they don't have any of that. They have the phone with the internet, like, and you could
Yeah.
just be walking down the street. So it's the things that now there's TikTok, y'all. You put a kid anywhere, you're going to see them TikToking. They don't care what the background looks like in a grocery store. So it's like a lot of things that we now have to compete with. It's hard. It is hard, but we just got to get these kids outside. And
Yeah.
as long as you take them outside and say, listen, I'm not going to listen to you complain. You're going to complain, but I don't care. We're still going to do it. Because that's a lot of it. Kids complain about, oh, this walk's so far. This is this and this. I did a camp to Shenley last year and the same camp this year. And there was a kid I actually ended up seeing. I was like, were you there on Tuesday? He's like, no. And his grandma was like, he said it was too much walking. So he didn't come on the trip because he remembered it from last year. He didn't want to have to walk that much. But then there was another kid who complained last year, and this year was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for my hike.
Yeah.
And so when you keep exposing kids to certain things, they will eventually be appreciative of it. It's just a matter of how you deliver.
I mean, you mentioned that exposure. Like, let's backtrack to like you know, young Chastity, like in this space. How did that occur for you? I mean, you mentioned like times were different, of course, like overarchingly, yes. But how did that come to be to like nourish your curiosity? Of course, like access and like this being in your backyard is one thing, but like to actually use it is another thing. Like, how did that come about for you?
Oh, baby. So first, we should backtrack to my family. So I come from a very, very, very big family. My family is also very outdoorsy. So our family reunions were at like Laurel Highlands, the state parks, Cooser, and then we would spend days there. And then like my papa would leave us to go, not us, but like he wouldn't be home for days or for a week to go on fishing trips. And he would come back with fresh fish and then he would cook us that fish. And so things like that were embedded into my family that even back then I didn't realize everybody wasn't doing it. I also didn't realize that this is what I wanted to do back then either. So then fast forward, I'm really good at math in school. So I'm really good at math and I'm like, I'm going to be an accountant. Y'all, that's what I told myself. And then I got to, where was I at? 9th grade, I went to Perry. And I still was like, I'm going to be an accountant. And then that school was not good for me. It was a portion of the way through the school year. I was like, me and my dad were like, mm-mm. But then they say, if you leave now, you got to go to your homeschool. And we also knew my homeschool wasn't going to be that good. So we're like, finish out the school year. And my dad went to the board. He found out about this new school. He's like, you should go here. They're like, yeah, and then write this essay. And then I get this essay. I ended up going to Sci Tech, y'all. Sci Tech has 4 concentrations. Environment, energy, computers and connections, forms and functions, and body and behavior. I told my mom I wanted to do engineering. Whenever the paper came in the mail, she checked the E one. Engineering was forms and functions. So I ended up in environment and energy on accident.
Shout out to Mom.
But I actually really enjoyed it. Actually, 40 under 40, one of the people, the teacher that was my environment and energy teacher, she's one of the people who helped nominate me for 40 under 40.
Oh, wow.
So like full circle. And
Yeah.
she's also the one who exposed me to the Parks Conservancy because whenever I was in 10th grade, we did Parks Conservancy's High School Urban Eco Steward program. Full circle. I've been actually working with the Parks Conservancy in some capacity since 2010.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yes. So I did that, and then I was going through school, and I'm like, all right, I might want to do this, but I still was like stuck on this engineering thing. Still stuck on engineering. I don't know. So I said I was going to do some kind of environmental engineering thing, and I'm in school, in college now, and I'm failing math. And I'm like, engineering is a lot of math. How am I do this? So then I said to my dad, I'm just going to go be a psych major. And he said, what? Go rethink that. How did you think that you were going to go from this to that? Those are drastically different. No. And so I was like, all right, so what am I going to do? And I think it was because I heard everybody talking about psych that I was like, what can I do? What can I do if this major isn't going to work for me? And then I decided I was going to do environmental, what did I do? Environmental studies is the degree I ended up getting. So I ended up also finding out the school you're at isn't the school you're going to stay at, because I was at Penn State, New Kensington. Y'all, I wasted a whole year there because I did not realize that environmental studies is only offered at one Penn State campus, y'all.
Yep.
Out of all the Penn States, only one. So they didn't even have any of my core classes, nothing. So I'm over here like, how am I going to have my sophomore year? And I'm trying to create my schedule. And by this time, it's like April. And my advisor was like, you got to leave. I said, what? He said, you got to go. You can't stay here. He said, and if anybody asks me, I'm telling them you have to go. Like, I am signing off on these papers. You cannot stay here if this was the major you want.
Yeah.
So then I think there's this thing where I always start my freshman year at one place and then leave. So then I had my sophomore year, I go to Penn State Altoona. I know no one. So I'm playing catch up too because I'm a year behind. Didn't get to take any of my classes. So like the whole time I was in college, I played catch up. And somehow, some way, when I was in college, I ended up doing summer camp for the Parks Conservancy. That was cool. And I did my internship with the Parks Conservancy, and then I just never left, y'all.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
8 years later, I'm still here.
Yeah.
So fate, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say. Yeah, I mean, I think one led to another. I mean, it's just a matter of opportunity and stars aligning.
Right. So it's like, oh man, I literally got a story. It's a story, but it's pretty interesting when you listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's unique as it relates to that. Were there, like, you mentioned, kind of like how it started and like to where it is now. Was there like a moment in time in which you were like, yes, this is for me? Or like, you had a lot of no's, it's like, no, accounting isn't for me. No, engineering isn't for me. Was there like a affirming yes, like, this is it?
I think when I had to think about it, when my dad told me no, whenever I went and said I was going to do psych, I think when he told me no, I was like, all right, what kind of environmental things are still there that I can do? Because that is something that I liked. And then that's how I ended up stumbling on environmental studies. So I was doing environmental systems engineering. So when I was doing engineering,
okay.
it was still a type of environmental. But then I was in it and I was like, this is too much math. So then when I said psych, my dad's like, how do you go from that to that?
Yeah.
No. And so then I was like, all right, so how can I still keep some part of this?
Yeah.
And so that's how I ended up.
That's a good pivot. I mean, just to remain in that. Shout out to Dad for
Telling me
getting
that.
you, to challenging you within that respect to like where you are now. I mean,
Yeah.
you could have like tried to, channel through that and try and go psych, and then who knows where it would have been. I mean, but now for him to say, just rethink this. It's like, think about this, and to where you are now. So, shout out to your dad.
Yeah, I feel like or at least I may have been in the same scenario of wanting to study psych as well. I feel like every kid, when
I
you,
think that's all you hear about.
yeah, it's like it's a well-promoted career opportunity, but it's also extremely exploratory. You almost
Yeah.
feel like you're learning more about yourself by studying the content. So
Honestly, I think that's what my little brother goes for.
yeah,
And
you better get him now.
and it's
He's gonna get a text after
crazy
this.
because when I was, so me and my brother are 10 years apart. And so my brother used to be really, really, really into animals and things. Like when he got his first laptop, his password, I can't even remember what it was, but it was some scientific name to some animal that he knew was the password to the laptop.
You'll never guess
Secure.
it. then.
He also was saying he was going to be a zoologist, and like he's like, when he grows up, he wants to go to Sci Tech just like Chaz, and he did go to Sci Tech just like me. And when I say he went to Sci Tech just like me, y'all, he went from 6 to 12. He actually got in middle school. I was the first graduating class of Sci Tech.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then my brother graduated last year. And now he's at Morehouse, and I think he is indeed studying psych with some other stuff. So not just, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, so he kind of followed me, but not fully. Not fully. He ended up finding his footing and what he actually really wanted to do.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of circle back to your experience here in the park, and I think that's one thing that I've always been just curious about is you know, the moment of recreation in a space, if you stay in the same city, you always have an affinity to that space. But I've seen you be more intentional with the advocacy and like preservation or investment and conservation of this space. Like not everyone enters into that realm of protection and love for a space, or like really stepping into and being a voice to say, hey, like, you know, this park deserves the same amount of investment as Frick Park or McKinley Park or, you know, all these other parks. So I want you to definitely elaborate on that, because I think sometimes when I moved here, I was looking for someone that would just say, hey, it's okay to do this. You know, like your family, the Bay family is a stellar example of that with Jamil, of like, it's okay to advocate for this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So your journey in that, could you kind of express that? I know we might be here the rest of the evening.
So, I know a lot of the work I do is sometimes in parks, but it's also sometimes not in parks.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have to let, me being the community nature educator, I have to sometimes let my job know, and not just like some of my immediate coworkers. It's like the bigger picture that what we offer here at Frick, everybody can't get to.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to offer more stuff like this in other places. And so a lot of what I do is bring that programming out to other spaces. And so kids get exposed to the same thing that the Squirrel Hill and Point Breeze kids get exposed to. And guess what? I never knew that there was a Frick camp my whole life. That camp has been going on for a very long time. Had my parents know, maybe they would have put me there. But it's like a lot of people don't know about these things. And so if we're not out in these communities getting to know these people, building these relationships, they're never going to know. The camp I knew was the camp over there up the street that's still going on all these years later. But maybe I would have enjoyed an environmental camp for a week or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are now, or I'm now going out into these communities and exposing kids to the same stuff that goes on at our camps, but in other camps. So in the summertime, I've this past summer partnered with Homewood Y and Shinley Heights, and I brought environmental things to them. And so whenever we look at the environment, you have to look at the environment that you have around you, and the environment that people have around you isn't always the same. So because we're in Frick has lots. We're in McKinley right now. McKinley also has lots. But then when you're in your neighborhood, people don't think about the same nature. So it's like, what nature do we have here? And so one of the things I did this summer was a teeny tiny scavenger hunt. And so it was a list of teeny tiny things. You had to go around and look for teeny tiny things in nature, like a small rock, a small leaf, things like that. And it's like, they don't realize they're going to find it because it's here. It's just not here, like in spaces like this. And so that's what I have to do, expose them to things like that. And so I also, like, rocks are different. People don't know that a geode it's not really a rock, but it's kind of like a rock. And so that is also something that I taught with this summer. Kids don't realize that a volcano can create something like this. And so I brought them geodes, and then they were able to crack open the geodes and see. But first we started it out as we took a walk looking for different types of rocks. And we walked around the neighborhood. Each kid had different rocks, big ones, little ones. And then I gave them this thing. It was like, so what is this like? And then they started to feel, okay, this one is light and this one is heavy. And then they got to break it open and see the surprise in the inside. So different things like that is teaching them about things in nature, even if it's not the nature that they have in their reach, but exposing them to little things like that will entice them to want to learn more. And so that's what I got to do, entice them, because people like me didn't get this. Like, I got what I got from my family. I didn't get what I get from people other than my family exposing me to it. And so if there are people that they see like them doing it, I definitely feel like I've heard somebody say, this isn't a career path that they've ever heard of. And so seeing me in it is helping to expose other kids to it and think about it as a kid. When I do the school programs, when they come to my job, I might be there for the first one, but I might not be there for the second one. And then my coworkers will be like, oh, they asked for you. You know why? Because I looked like them. So they remembered my name. And even if they weren't in my group, like they'll get there and they'll say, I want to be in her group. I want to be in her group. And it's because I look like them and they can relate to me. So they think my group's going to be way better than
More lit.
the white person's group.
Yeah.
And it's like, in order for kids to want to do something, you got to bring more people that look like them to make them want to do it. And I've been told a lot of times, I work in the white man's field. I mean, I might, but guess what? I ain't white.
Yeah.
And I'm here and I'm doing it. So it might be, and that's because of the naked eye, that's mainly what you see, but it's not all of it. Just got to be more of us. So I hope these little future kids, it's going to be little me's.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, do you see that as like, you know, advocacy and all that you're doing? Do you see that as like a duty or like a calling, or is it like just work? Like what, or is it just you? You know, because I know for some people, there's been a spectrum of like, this is my duty to like, this is just who I am, and like advocating is just part of who I am. And we've seen like a spectrum across that with people that I talk to, with people that have been on the show of like, I know there's a cost and I'm willing to do it, to like just transparency of like, this is really hard some days, you know, just being me advocating for others with that look like me or that are like me in a certain respect. Like, what fuels you to do that? Because it's much easier, as always, to not do it, you know, to say no, or to not take a position in certain respects to advocate for others. Like, how do you find yourself finding that balance and continuing to do, admittedly, within that space?
I feel like I do enjoy school programs. School programs are cool. But whenever I get to know the kids more and like those camp capacities, and I'm seeing them more on a regular basis, is whenever, because they get excited to see me. And I know they're excited to see me even whenever they come for school programs, but by this time, they're like, oh, well, where were you? And this is different about you. And this is different because we built a relationship because I worked with them for a couple weeks back to back. And so I think maybe that's it. I had this one kid, I'm not going to say her name, but like every week she was excited. Like she's like, oh, and this, and this. And I'm just like, why do you know so much? Why do you know so much? And then last year at one of the Hazelwood camps we worked at, this kid was like 3 or 4. His dad worked at the camp. So he was, you know, sometimes with us, and we're going over stuff and then we're like, well, what's that? And he's like, it's an axolotl. And I'm like, why do you know that?
Yeah.
And like, it's like some of the kids actually know some stuff, and guess what? There's an axolotl show, and there's the Discovery Time shows that some of these kids are really into. So I'm getting some of them early on who really like it, and then there are others who you got to start trying to get them. So I think whenever I start working with the camp groups and are more diverse in ages, I'm able to see, and it's more rewarding for me because I'm like, oh, you right here, you like this, but then you up here, you don't like this, but eventually you're going to be like this kid down here, even though you're up here.
Right.
Because that was that kid from the walk last year who was like, hated it so much. And then this year was like, thank you so much for my hike.
Yeah.
So it's like, once you keep exposing kids or keep seeing the same kids over and over, eventually they're going to stick with you and they're going to like you. And so I think that's really what keeps me going. Because sometimes I really be like, I got to do that. I really got to do that. And then whenever the kids get excited to see me, I'm like, now I got to smile and I'm not dreading it anymore. So the kids fuel me, honestly.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like, I've spoken to and heard from multiple people, and it's just an interesting space to be in, is like balancing of, you know, some of the youth, they just don't get it, you know, right now is the best way to put it. And then some youth, they see an outdoor activity and immediately are inclined to go towards it. But to me, I think there's importance of still focusing on the kids that just don't get it. Like, don't give up on them, that youth, because I mean, I was honestly one of them as well. Like, I was probably one of the worst kids in my 3rd, 4th, 5th grade class. But,
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
yeah, for sure. But I mean, I think I turned out pretty good, right, Miss Smith? Yeah, I see you. Yeah, like, you know, you still need to put in that same amount of time, if not more, because you never know what that youth could be. And in the environmental space, like the kids that can finally connect the dots of like, you know, me planting this tree, protecting it for 20 years for the root system to grow, that's gonna have a huge impact on my kids' breathing system, or like tree canopy, or the ability for it to be 10 degrees cooler underneath this canopy. You know, a kid being able to see that is extremely important. And I also just want to echo that same moment that you had related to, I hosted a camping event this past weekend, and one of my little homies, Jamar, biked to my camping event, and I was like, oh my God, my guy, Jamar.
Shout out to him.
Shout out to Jamar.
Yep.
Can't wait to see him again. But those things, man, that sets me over the top. It's like, if you could get that dopamine hit every day, like, oh my gosh, how life would be.
I feel like we battle though with parents, because you have to think about parents saying this is gross, no, whatever.
Yeah. Well, my kid doesn't do this, but without them knowing that, like, the kid has interest in it. Maybe they're like ashamed to say, like, hey, I'm interested in this, you know, like, yeah.
Because when I got into this, a lot of people were like, oh, Lita's daughter? And I'm like, but y'all also don't know I'm Lisa's daughter. Like, my parents, they ended up together somehow, but they was drastically different. Like, my mom, she's always to a T. My dad, he'll go outside in a wrinkled shirt and not care. But my mom, your shirt's wrinkled. You need to do something about that. So, like,
or
whenever...
shirtless.
You know.
The dog.
So it's like everybody was so confused whenever I said I was getting into this dirty field, and I'm like, but like,
It's crazy. Yeah.
did y'all forget that we used to go camping as kids? Like run around Cruiser with no shoes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we slept on cots, y'all. Like, we literally had to go down to the bed house and grab our bed and then drag it all the way up to our springs for when it was time to stay at the Laurel Highlands, and those were our family reunions. We literally had to go check our beds out of this thing, and so I'm like, did y'all forget we used to do stuff like that? Like, this is normal. We went swimming with the crayfish too. So yeah, so it's certain parents you got to compete with. It's a matter of not knowing what's going on behind closed doors, and so you just got to keep with them kids. And then eventually it's going to trigger, and they're going to be like, I love this. We know you did.
Yeah, exactly.
Language is important, you know, with like what we articulate and what we say. You know, admittedly, it's like one thing to actually do things, but it's another thing also additionally to say. You know, with like stifling of curiosity, but also like discouragement of participation, you know, as well. I mean, I'm sure both of you have had experiences where it's like, we don't do this, my kid doesn't like this, as you kind of articulated as well, and as a result, like, they don't show up, you know, because it's like, well, mom and dad said I don't. Or, I mean, even like adults in this space as well, like the people that you spend time with and like the community that you cultivate. Broadly, if the majority is like, nah, we don't go to Lower Highlands. Sorry. You know, it's like, wait, do I go? Like, should I go? Should I go by myself? Especially when you haven't had perhaps that experience before. It's like that as well. It's like stifles a lot of people from going to certain places as well. I know you're like a big independent traveler. So it's like, if I was like, nah, that's not me.
My dad used
Like,
to
you
take
would
us
go.
to go see caves, y'all. We used to go literally drive around different parts of the state to go do cave tours. So that's why I'm like, I've always been exposed to stuff like this, and people just don't realize it's based off of your parent and what your parent exposes you to, and then that can help you. But a lot of parents don't think to expose their kids to stuff like this, or don't even realize that it's out there because their parent then didn't expose that, and then their parent didn't expose. So it's like a lot of things go very unnoticed, because why would I think about that? I'm like, because I didn't forget that I used to go on cave tours, but y'all, that's not something I talk about. Like, I forgot. Like, I don't think about that, telling people until now in this conversation. I'm like, there's lots of stuff I used to do. Now I need to go on a cave tour, y'all. Go on to Google and find one.
Yeah. I mean, experience and like, or lack thereof is cyclical, you know? It's like your parents had those experiences, or your dad perhaps, which led to you having that experience, which I'm sure will like which led you to provide that experience to other kids. The same of which for us, and I mean Marcus's origin story and ours as well. It's like we had a grandfather that was just like, yeah, let's do this and this and this and this, and now it's manifested in Marcus leading these trips independently. So like just like experience and exposure is cyclical. I mean, I'm sure everyone has had like various experiences of my dad did this, my mom did this, I do this now, or I did it once and I realized it's not for me, So it's interesting to articulate that broadly for others.
That's crazy. The world is ours.
Yeah.
It's yours.
I mean, it's a shared world. From what
It's yours, y'all. The world is yours
Yeah.
and what you make of it. So as long as you start making some things of it, it's going to be great.
Yeah, for sure.
Take that road trip to
Yeah.
that park. Go see that cave. Go see that tree. Hug that tree, y'all.
Yeah.
Because guess what? The trees understand.
Yeah.
Well,
They're listening.
what's one thing here? It could be regionally, or just like broadly, experientially, that you haven't done that you want to do. Speaking of curiosity, I feel like you've done so much that perhaps there's not something that exists of like, I haven't done this, or even if it's just I've done this and it's been just as you mentioned with like caving. It's been a long time, but maybe I should fire this back up and do it again. Is there something that you're curious about experientially?
I've been doing cabin things, but I want to go camping.
Well,
But everybody around me,
you're talking to someone that.
everybody around me is like, you want to do what? And I'm like, and I'm also a Black woman in America, so I don't want to go camping by myself.
I got you.
And so like, that's one of the things of having like-minded people. A lot of people are into what I do, or they say they'll do the things that I do, but they're not willing to do all the things that I'll do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, camping is one of those things that I haven't done yet because I haven't found my people to go with me to do it.
Well, let's get it.
Camping trip.
Surprise.
Yeah, you're talking to one. That's one thing that I can say is like the fallacy of, some of the listenership or the community saying that, Black people don't have interest in doing these things or don't have, an affinity to these things. That's false. It's just like either they haven't found the community yet that fits their interests, or there's a gap in resources. And those are the two most, transparent things that I've even heard from the community that I serve is like, I didn't even know this was out here. I've always been wanting to do this, but I didn't know who to do it with type of ordeal. That's what you just shared. Like,
Another thing
we're
is
here doing it.
Black people still are on the stigma of we don't belong outdoors because we were forced outdoors. So because we were
Yeah, it's a
forced
tough one to grapple with.
Yeah.
outdoors so many years ago, people feel like their connection to nature is going to be rooted back into slavery. But guess what? Before slavery, we were also outside. We were also doing things like this. So although we were forced outside, we were just forced outside in another capacity. And so now we need to take those things and run with it, but in a different way. Run through these trails, y'all. Like, I swear, you'll feel great. Like, just go expose yourself to, I don't know if y'all can hear these noises that we hear, not that truck. But the birds and the insects, like, just go outside and be one with nature for 10, 20 minutes. And I promise you, you'll start to want to do it more often. You'll want to go find more spots that are calming for you. The scenery is great. Like yesterday, me and two of my friends and my boyfriend, we went to Laurel Highlands, Ohio Powell, and we just sat by the water for a long time. Like we hiked some, but like every time we would find a little place to sit near the water, we just sat there and we're like, yep, this is it.
Yeah.
And then we will hike some more, found some more water, and we sat there. This is it. So it's like certain areas are just way more calming than you think. And it's like we went to go hike and then we found water and we said, we're just going to sit here and chill.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I can say that it's a gift and a curse that social media has provided is like they see a spot, you see the Grand Tetons or something, and you're like, oh, I seen it on Instagram, I don't need to go. But it's like,
Hold
if you
up.
go, like
It's
it's
crazy.
breathtaking. It's
Yeah.
the most incredible experience you'll ever have, and that's something that you'll never forget.
Have y'all done the Getaway Camping yet?
Yeah,
Yep.
I did the one in Ohio.
Lisbon?
Yeah,
Yeah, we did that for my boyfriend's birthday, and as for there, he's like, "Yo, I should tell my family to come do this. We could."
It's incredible.
Listen, he's like, and then we can all just have them lined up. And then I said, I mean, yeah, but
Well, we could just do it.
I said we're willing to do this. No, because after we went, like he's like, whoa, he wants more people to do this
Yeah.
because he felt great, and it's also like he had never done anything like that. Like he's going out hiking and stuff, but he's never stayed in the cabin and done. So now he's like, I say, yeah, but here's the thing. They might not be willing to stay outside. Like there's literally nothing to do unless this is what you do.
Yeah.
And so they're going to probably, he's like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, but it's like that. Like it's really real because although we like these things, the people around us might not like those things. And so we got to find our people to like our things too, if we want to do those things with other people. Because I've been wanting to do the Getaway Cabin, but somebody told him about it. He was like, let's do it for my birthday. And I was like, how'd you know? I didn't want to say it, but how did you know? And so after I did that one, I was like, now I want to go around and go see them all.
yeah, that one's great. The one in Maryland near Shenandoah National Park.
I wanted, yeah, that one's the next, and I think they have
That's-
like 2.
Yeah, East and West, I believe. You'll enjoy those two.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's just a matter of wanting to drive.
Oh, and New York.
Yeah,
You
I
gotta
did see
do
that
New
one.
York.
I did see
Oh,
that
yeah.
one.
I love the Catskills. That's one of my favorite East Coast locations. So
I'm so excited.
Get
I
up
said, and I forget what the state park it was by the one in Ohio. We went hiking there.
Cuyahoga?
No.
Oh, that's not the. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The
Yeah.
state park. That's there.
That's you for
That's
like
the
5-10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went there. He's like, whoa, they got bobcats here? Because on the sign, I said, yeah, like different regions have different things. And because we're just so used to our regions and we don't go out, and even if we go travel, like you go to Miami, no one's going to Miami to go to the park, the state park or whatever. And so people go travel, but they don't go look out what different species they have in these other places.
Yeah.
Guess what? They're just as cool. We might have to run a little bit, but they're
Yeah.
cool.
For sure.
Touche. Which I think is a good segue. What's your next experience?
To do in nature?
Well, camping is going to be one.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and write that in. So, but after that, what else you got?
You know, it's funny because I was just looking at more getaways. We went in June and I'm like, should we do it for my birthday now? My birthday's also November, so it's not as warm. So it's like one of those like, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Because I'm willing to do it. But yeah, I think that might be one of my next things. Get into another cabin since the season is moving away from us for warm time. That I want to do a cabin at least once in the cold months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Solid.
Get it while the leaves are changing too. Yeah. You might
be
be
a
putting
great
your
time.
boyfriend on right now. He,
Right.
He's got a tune
listen,
in.
He's gonna love it all. He's gonna be like, you know what?
the second week of October sure does look nice. You know, the leaves gonna be changing. Oh, that's great. Well, any final questions, D, before we wrap up?
No final questions for me outside of any shout outs that you have
Y'all.
for just us. All right. Anybody
No,
else?
for real. Shout out to y'all though for
Shout out to
giving me this platform and inviting me to have this conversation with you all. I appreciate it. Who else do I want to shout out? All the people who have supported me this far, because y'all, it wasn't easy and it ain't been easy, but y'all been sticking with me and y'all been holding me up and pushing me on. And guess, I didn't even say the accolades helped me keep going too, y'all. Because honestly, whenever I think that people don't see me, something then pops up and I'm like, oh, wait, you see me. You are seeing what I do. So everybody who has acknowledged me or seen me in some way, I appreciate you all and thank you, because guess what? We need to be seen.
For sure.
Agreed. Very much so.
Yeah, appreciate you for your work. Not to just tag on to that, but
Yeah, no
yeah,
doubt.
sometimes it's hard to keep going through. It's nice to get that nice nudge of like, yo, I see you, appreciate what you've done for the community, even if it's just that simple, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thank you for that, and happy to have you on this space. You know, this is a platform for us, by us.
The people.
Happy to have another champion on the team right here. So appreciate
It's gonna
you.
be great, y'all.
Yeah,
It's
no.
gonna be great.
We got 30 for 30, 40 for 40 under 40.
I need to get 30 for 30 before I turn. So literally, I
mean, you got 40 for 40. You gotta.
Right.
I mean, you gotta
Yeah.
slide that 30 for 30 next.
Right.
you know?
So I'm like, I got to try to get it,
Yeah.
because I turned 29 in November. So I literally just got
1
one
year
more-
of eligibility.
I got one more year to meet. So somebody got to help me get there.
Get that lick back. Yeah.
This is 30 for 30,
No
40
doubt.
for 40, 50 for 50. I'm going to just keep going.
No
sure.
doubt. No doubt.
I love it. Well, it's a wrap.